Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to the California Acupuncture Board meeting, Wednesday, December 14th. My name is Jeannie Kang. I will be subbing in for Dr. Corradino for the Research Committee meeting. I'll call it to order. Do we have a quorum?
I'll call the quorum,
Okay.
Ginny. Dr. Corradino?
Absent.
Okay. Kipton Chan?
Here.
Jeannie Kang?
Present.
Acting chair here. And Jamie Zamora.
Here.
We have a quorum, Jeannie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, so we're just going to go down the agenda. Regulation of the sale of acupuncture needles. Would that be you, Mark?
I can go ahead and take
Or
care of that
Ben?
one.
I'll let.
Okay, Ben.
Thank you, Chair. So this is just presenting information that the board had been presented with briefly at the June 10th meeting. And what we're doing is we're offering a memo describing what kind of brought about the pharmacy board's actions. And what had been discovered is that a number of individuals had been selling acupuncture needles to licensees without the proper license. And the pharmacy board has a license that it requires you to have if you want to sell acupuncture needles, because they are a medical device regulated by the pharmacy board. What we've done is included the history of the sale of the needles, and we wanted to really bring this to the school's attentions because they tend to offer these supplies to their students. So we wanted to make sure that they were aware that they needed to have this wholesaler's license to be able to distribute these to their students, to sell them. They're able to give them to their students, but to sell them to the students, they need the license. And then we also included the June 16th letter from the pharmacy board to individuals and the schools that were engaging in this. Are there any questions from the?
When you say you can give it to the student, not going to sell it to the student, and how do we enforce that? How do we know they are selling it to the student or give it to the student?
At that point, it'd be on the honor system, a trust system. So if they're giving them to students, then the students, well, they've been technically informed publicly today that they can be given the needles. But if they're sold the needles, then the pharmacy board has cause to go into the location and then assess a citation to any individuals that are selling needles.
Ben, outside of today, do we have a way to remind schools? I mean, they should already know this, but can we remind them, or do you? There's a need to remind them. Considering this was one complaint, right?
This was one complaint. A couple of citations, as I understand it, were
Right.
issued by the pharmacy board. We can definitely communicate with the schools that they need this license as well. This letter was to colleges of acupuncture and oriental medicine from the pharmacy
It
board.
was sent to them, and it's on the board's website as well.
We have noticed it.
So did we have contact with the school?
This school?
The school that was.
It wasn't actually a school that was cited, as far as I understand. It was an individual that had a supply business that was cited and brought this attention to the board.
So the school that's listed here in the packet, the College of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine.
That at the top of the page?
Yeah.
That's a generic for all the colleges. of
Oh, gotcha.
acupuncture and
Okay.
oriental medicine.
Okay. Got it.
Any other comments from the board members?
Any questions?
Public comment?
I just want to comment.
Come
Podium,
up to the
please.
podium, please. The mic is on.
Good morning, Yoon Kim, president of Emperor's College of Traditional Oriental Medicine in Santa Monica. I am with Dr. Steve Given, co-chair of the Council of Colleges of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine Committee on California Legislative Affairs, and this is an issue that we brought to the attention of the council membership. Council membership has 56 accredited Oriental Medical Colleges as part of its membership, and we had a meeting to discuss this issue. We informed all the council colleges that schools should not be selling needles and they can distribute it. And we quoted from the memo that Mr. Johnson included at the last meeting. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
Good morning, Jacques Mormarco, Academic Dean, Empress College, Santa Monica, and I just wanted to say that the pharmacy board had called and apparently was calling every single school. So they actually contacted me, and as I told them, and as was implemented, there's no needle sale in our bookstore, hasn't been for quite some time, and that the needles are dispensed directly to the interns. So there's no way for any of the students to purchase them through us. Thank you.
Okay, that's great.
Good. I didn't think so, so I'm glad that was clarified. Okay, any other further questions or comments on this agenda item? No? Okay. So should we move to number 3?
Sure.
Ben, go ahead.
Yes, I recommend that we table this item, the regulation of practice of dry needling and unlicensed individuals applying a needle to the human body. This was a discussion item that Dr. Corradino was researching and going to present on. And in his absence, I recommend we table.
Okay. Do we need a
Motion.
motion? Yeah. Okay.
Would someone like to motion?
Chair, I'll motion to table this issue.
Thank you, Jamie.
Second?
Kevin?
May the public still speak on that?
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
I'm not here to speak
Yeah.
on it. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Craig Brandt. I was the lawyer involved in the lawsuit that was brought against several out-of-state corporations last year that were going to try to practice or teach the so-called art of practicing dry needling. There was a conference last year in Southern California in Anaheim of all the physical therapists. And some of the individuals there were going to sell a weekend course to do dry needling to physical therapists. We brought an action in state court. It was removed to federal court. Consequently, they settled the case by, we won. Because the law, as you know, in California is you can't practice acupuncture without an acupuncture license. But in any case, you should know that this is something that's going to happen again and again, and that you should be prepared for that. We stopped a few companies from out of state coming to California trying to do that. Part of it is, too, that they also want to sell the needles without the proper licensing as well. So I just wanted you to know that you have, at least on one occasion, had to sue to stop that. I see you have legal counsel at the table, too. I'm willing to talk with legal counsel to give more details so they can pass it on to you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. I'm so glad you came. Okay, great. So
Call the vote,
let's call the vote.
unless there's other public comment.
Any other public comment? Okay.
What about number 4?
We need to vote to table.
My bad. All right, the motion is to table. Jamie made the motion, Kip seconds. Jeannie King,
Yes.
Kip and Jan,
Yes.
Jamie Zamora.
Yes.
Motion's tabled.
Okay. Future research committee agenda items? Any recommendations? So obviously, we're tabling it, so the dry needling, Dr. Corradino will talk about would be one of the agenda items. Are there any others at this time? Okay.
Nothing else?
From
All right. So then,
from the public?
Public comment?
anybody from the public? No, yeah. Okay, public comment on items not on the agenda for this committee? Okay, so we're gonna be adjourning this meeting.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Last second.
My, that was such a fast meeting. I wasn't prepared for that.
My name is Ann Shelton-Crute, and I am an acupuncturist here in California. And I'm here speaking on behalf of Bina Jangda. She is the director of TCM Review Seminars. She's been teaching the board review classes for almost a decade now, and she teaches Kale Review, National Review, and the Pan-Canadian Review. So I'm here to speak about the proposed change from using the Kale exam to the national exam in 2019. She's had a major change of heart about her opinion, and she's spoken to you in the past about this, and I'd like to make a few comments about it, if you don't mind. Back in 2000, so now I'll read her statement. She speaks in the first person, so I is Bina Jangda, thank you. Back in 2012, I attended the acupuncture board meeting to protest the Kale exam, which at that time was not a fair exam for students. It contained questions that were unduly tricky and unnecessary for the safe practice of acupuncture in California. The actual administration and grading of the exam were flawed on several occasions between August 2007 and August 2012. And at that time, I was of the opinion that the Kale should be replaced with the national NCCAOM exam. The NCCAOM exam has its own particular flaws, but overall was well proctored and better written. I have had a complete change of heart about replacing the Kale with the national exam. Let me explain why. Since 2012, two things have changed. First, the California Acupuncture Board heard the criticism of the test. You took a positive action to remedy the flaws of the test. The last 4 cycles of the exam have been difficult, but fair, and that is an important change to note. I want to thank the board and the CAB administration for being open to the suggestions and for having implemented these changes. A difficult but fair test is necessary as it tests students' knowledge, their mettle, and ensures that we are licensing competent practitioners who can be responsible for the public's well-being. The second thing is that I have spent the last 7 years preparing students from around the country and the world to sit the national exam. And what I find is that in some states, such as Florida, New York, and Oregon, the caliber of the education is on par with California. In other states, however, many students have nowhere near the level of education and understanding of the medicine of the California students. Students from some states struggle to pass their national exams, having to take each module 2 to 4 times before passing. My concern is that in California, we have fought hard for the title of primary care physician. If we do away with the Kale and accept the national testing and certification, it will undermine the high standard of care that the public can count on when we are working with when working with a licensed graduate from a California school. We will have no way to regulate the standard of care, and that risks public safety. The other point I'd like to bring up is that of the actual difference between the tests themselves. I've been the director and lead teacher for TCM review seminars for almost 10 years now. We've grown from offering just a Kale review course to national review courses and now a pan-Canadian review course as well. I have personally helped thousands of students pass their acupuncture board exams. One of the significant differences between the Kale and the national is that the Kale tests all subjects in one exam, while the nationals test one subject at a time. Why is this important? When students spend 4 to 6 months studying diagnosis, acupuncture, herbology, and biomedicine together, it does something to their understanding that doesn't happen when students study for the national exams one at a time. There's an integration of the subjects that happens at a deep level, which inevitably makes for better, higher quality practitioners. I see this with the Kale students. I see this with the pan-Canadian students who take their test, which is equally as challenging as the Kale. I don't see this integration happening with the national exam students. The national exam students spend 4 to 6 weeks on one subject, take their test, and then move on to the next subject. Sometimes there's a 2 to 4 month gap between subject exams. This integration process is an extremely important gift, although no student will call it a gift while they are studying for their exam. After licensure, many students tell me that this integration is what really helps them put the medicine together in a way that would not happen if they didn't have to study for the Kale. Of course, eventually integration of the different subjects may happen for all practitioners. For nationals test takers, this integration happens over the course of the first few years of practice through trial and error. But for Kale test takers, it happens when they're studying for the exam. Doesn't it make more sense that the students achieve this integration before licensure? If the purpose of the CAB is to protect the public, doesn't it make sense to ensure that students have an integrated understanding of diagnosis, acupuncture, biomedicine, herbology? I think it does. I would encourage the board to keep the Kale exam as it provides a barrier to the quality of acupuncture care in California and ensures the safety of the general public in a way that the national exam does not. Thank you.
Give me her name again, the person you're, Jengda?
Bina Jangda. I can give you a copy of her statement if you like.
Okay,
Would you
please.
just give that to me,
Yes. Thank you. And your name is Anna Shelton?
please? Thank you.
Ann Shelton Crute.
Crute.
C-R-U-T-E.
Great, thank you very
I
much.
would add that I wholeheartedly agree. I'm actually, I'm in practice now, and I'm actually, because I have family out of state, I am currently halfway through sitting the national exams, and it is a night and day experience. I had to commit the information that I learned it's equivalent material, but it's not an equivalent experience. I had to commit information to long-term memory to be able to sit the Kale. For the nationals, I'm reviewing what I knew for Kale, and I'm adding information, I'm dumping it into my short-term memory, and then I can drop it right away. It's really different, and I really care about this because I'm noticing that in other states, acupuncture is being downgraded to a tech level position. I can't pay my student loans on a tech level salary, and I have, in California, acupuncturists are being welcomed into hospitals as they should be because we really provide. We have sophisticated diagnostic capacities with tongue and pulse and our theory. If acupuncture is practiced as a technical job, if we're really just looking at it as the safe insertion of needle protocols, and we're not thinking about the specialized diagnosis and theory that's important as an important part of Chinese medical practice, then we can watch acupuncture and Chinese medicine be elevated to high popularity even as actual Chinese medicine becomes extinct. So, in my opinion, the rest of the country should rise up to California standards, not the other way around.
Can I comment to this or no? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hi, good morning. I'm Wei Wei. I'm here representing American Association of Chinese Medicine and Acupuncture, and actually our whole organization totally has the totally exact same opinion as Dr. Ann just mentioned, and we would like the board to reconsider the recommendation that you have. We would like to see what we can do, maybe have a public hearing or something else to let the board hear what the professionals and what the publics, like the patients, would say about the national exam. Thank you.
My name is Daisy, represent same organization with Wei Wei. Same consideration like what she say, and we really like to her, get to know more detail. So now it's hard for me to 100% against that, but we not very for sure what was happen. Just heard in June. So, the motion, the decision you already passed. So I believe that time wasn't too many acupuncturists in the meeting. So everybody feel a little bit shocked what was happened. So now we really need to know more details. It's hard for me to say total against the issues, but we have to know more because there's something related to our professional in California. We are very sensitive with that. So we like to, if you could make one more time for her meeting, so more acupuncture come here to get to know the details. That's one issue. The other one is also something about the dry needles in California. You guys know a lot of the physical therapy is already practiced dry needle in California. So I would like to remind the acupuncture board that is illegal in California. So I believe later on, President Ron will report some of the really true. The student was really say something happened in the Monterey, right, Doctor? In Monterey, there's some hospital. big hospital, but the physical therapy, so just like a very, very, like, how to say, I don't know how to tell you. Just a lot of physical therapists practice needle in the hospital, like normally practice. I don't understand. I hope your acupuncture board should know the issues and the suppose won't face the lawsuit because it is illegal. So that's my concern. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daisy. A lot of familiar faces today. Any other comments from the public? Jacques?
As far as those exams, are we going to bring it to the educational committee? Because there's an important aspect
Yeah.
that has been overseen by everybody that's been talking about
If it's
this.
more education committee material, we can
Well-
discuss it there.
If it's a segue on what was said,
Then go ahead, yeah.
This is Jacques Mormarco, Academic Dean, Empress College, and I'm not going to debate the Cali or the National at this point. There's one point, a very important point that has been overseen by everybody to date, and I specifically asked the board to put it on the agenda. If the legislature and under your recommendation decides to go to the National in 2019, we need to prepare our students for the herbal section of the National. When it was said it's to par with California, that is wrong information. It's not to par. The California Occupational Analysis has the herb section at 10.5%. And we have 83 formulas on our state exam. On the national exam, there's 166 formula. So instead of being at 10.5%, we have double the stakes. And that is a very deep concern for the educational institutions that are teaching the formulas for the state board exam. So we're emphasizing the A formulas, and there's 83 of them. The national formulas, there's 166, which we call those the B formulas. All the students learn all of them, and they certainly are able to pass the state and national exam at Empress College. However, I think we really need to pay attention to the occupational analysis and the 10.5%. If we're staying with that, then the national exam total herb section is not properly calibrated for California. I think that's a very important issue and something that we need to be aware of, and the decision has to be made and has to be modified accordingly, whichever way and route you decide to go. So that's one thing I wanted to mention, and maybe we can put it on an agenda item. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that's 2 agenda items.
Real quick, though, I just want to make sure we're clear, though. So these are items for the research committee?
This is public comment for items not on the research committee agenda.
So then are these suggestions for the research committee, or?
That would,
It's just so we're understanding about today, the public. So we're having committee meetings, then a full board meeting. So you might want to figure out which committee meeting your topic falls into. So yeah, it's better for you. If you want, you might want to wait till the full board meeting where we talk about everything. So just in something, so we know what the process is today. So.
All right. So if there's no more public comments, then we can adjourn the meeting at 9:55.